The time has come. The madness is upon us. Selection Sunday was just the other day, and now we are thrust into March Madness. Man, I'm excited for this. This is the first year where I'm like super into it. Really hyped to see how it all plays out. Looking forward, rooting for some upsets, as I'm sure most of us are, because it's always good to root for the underdog, right?
Yeah, man, we just did our conference tournament pool, and we picked some nice little underdogs to come through and win. Certainly not the favorites, and yeah, it definitely helped us really get in the zone and get very in touch with NCAA basketball.
So we're ready to give you guys some perfect brackets.
Oh yeah,
they will be rather perfect, give or take a pick or two,
But it should be enough to get you to win your own bracket challenge.
And as long as you're with like just some average people, from the office who aren't like super invested in it, we don't want to go up against any other sorcerers.
Right.
They're out there. So if you're in a league with them, just be aware of that.
Yeah. Like exercise caution.
The people who were in the conference tournament pool with us, they didn't know that they were in the pool with sorcerers, and thus they lost.
Exactly, yeah.
But before that, we're going to give you guys some NFL news to follow up on some more free agency stuff. Starting off with Sam Darnold signing a 1-year, $10 million contract with the Vikings. That is kind of a lot of money for some guy who probably will not start all that much, but it tells me that he will start some. Whoever they draft or whatever will probably sit behind Sam Darnold. Now, if I'm a rookie quarterback, Sam Darnold's not the guy I want to sit behind and learn from, but I guess it's serviceable.
Yeah, I wish that we had, kind of knew this a week ago when we had first recorded, because we originally announced that Kirk Cousins was leaving, and then like 10 hours after we recorded the pod, they announced it
was really soon
after.
after.
Darnold was being signed. And so we didn't get to provide any thoughts on it last week. However, we are here now with them. And so I don't like this move for the Vikings. I really am not a fan of it. I honestly think that whatever quarterback they end up drafting will usurp Sam Darnold halfway through the season. I'm not a fan of Sam Darnold. I mean, he played in, I think, only one game behind Brock Purdy in the 49ers season this past year. It was like the last game of the season. I just don't really like him very much. I know he was on the Jets and the Panthers before, and those teams are kind of devoid of talent, but even still, I didn't ever really think he was super productive.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he played pretty well in the Panthers. He scared me a little bit that one year with Tom Brady, almost forcing them out of the playoffs. The Panthers would have actually made the playoffs last year, had a few things more gone their way. But, yeah, we'll see how this plays out. I don't think Justin Jefferson's all too happy that now he's getting thrown the ball by Sam Darnold and unknown rookie QB that won't even be like a top 3 pick unless they trade up. Here's a big one. The Bears signed Keenan Allen from the Chargers, and they really did not get all that much in return. This is a pretty wild trade here. As a Bears fan, I'm pretty happy about it, but we are going to have to pay him quite a bit. So I think that's why the compensation was less, because Keenan Allen was due quite a bit of money. But this is a big signing, and I think now we have 2 definite how about number 1 receivers?
Yeah, I mean, this is huge for the Bears offense. And not only did they acquire DeAndre Swift, which we talked about last week, and now they've got Keenan Allen and DJ Moore at the wideout position, and this is absolutely incredible, man. I mean, this is a team that went from Darnell Mooney being the top receiver like 2 years ago to now basically having 2 studs out there, and I expect that it will be Caleb Williams throwing the ball to these guys. We'll get to that in a minute here when we discuss the trade, but yeah, I'm excited about this move for sure. And I think you said, they didn't have to give up much. It was only like a 4th-round pick, I believe, right?
Yeah. The only thing is, like I said, they just have to pay him quite a bit.
Right.
But, hey, I mean, it's a great thing to have these 2 veteran wide receivers for a rookie quarterback.
Agreed.
Speaking of wide receivers, the Chiefs signed Hollywood Brown here. I think this is a great move for the Chiefs. They seem to be able to bring in just about anybody with some talent above Sky Moore, MVS.
Kadarius Toney.
Yeah, he's the worst one. I mean, Patrick Mahomes has made some of these guys look great, and Hollywood Brown's probably one of the best receivers they've signed. Probably the best since Tyreek Hill. I mean, I think Brown's better than Juju Smith-Schuster, who they had the year prior to this past one. So I think this is really good for them, although I would probably advise they draft somebody as well.
Yeah, but this would be a great loadout for them with Brown on one side, Rashee Rice on another, and if they draft a third guy, I mean, that would definitely set them up well for success this season.
For a three-peat.
Oh, yeah.
which we just all would love to see. The Ravens signed Derrick Henry. I really honestly feel like he did not get paid as much as I thought he would. I think it's only $9 million guaranteed at 2 million or 2 years, $15 million, something like that. But hey, I mean, this certainly solves the Ravens running back problems. I think Derrick Henry still has a lot in the tank, even though he is aging and his usage has been insane over the last few years. But really good to see this. It just felt serendipitous. I mean, Derrick Henry used to slap around the Ravens. I remember in that playoff game, he threw a touchdown on them. The game after that, he broke off a huge run on them. In overtime, I think it was to win the game. So it's kind of crazy that now he's on that team. But yeah, good for them. I think this is a much needed position they filled.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a wild combination with Henry and Lamar coming out of the backfield together. Because, I mean, Lamar can pass it to himself, or he can run the ball, scamper around, and Derrick Henry can, of course, run people over, or he can pass the ball too.
Yeah, I know.
So
it's wild.
I would love to see some trickery design.
Oh, I'm sure there will be.
Oh yeah, I expect that to happen, but I'm excited to see this in action this year.
Yeah, it's good that he got off the Titans there, which just seemed to be a sinking boat. Would not be surprised if they're the worst team in the league next year.
Right.
Vikings sign Aaron Jones. Man, this is another one of those where it just feels like you're signing him for those 2 games a year where you play the Packers and you expect him to just go off in terms of a revenge game.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Aaron Jones definitely feels it after being cut and then Josh Jacobs being signed to the Packers. So I think Aaron Jones will be very motivated in those games. And this does seem like a good sign because, like I said, I'm not convinced that Josh Jacobs is better than Aaron Jones. I talked about this last week. I know you're a little higher on Jacobs right now than Jones because he's younger, but I really do like Aaron Jones, so this is a pretty big move for the Vikings here.
Yeah, it definitely is, and I am higher on Jacobs than Aaron Jones, but don't get me wrong, Aaron Jones is still a very solid player, and I certainly think that he's better than who the Vikings had at running back. I mean, Alexander Mattison just kind of crumbled at the end of the season. I mean,
he was always bad. Cam Akers got injured.
Exactly.
But Ty Chandler was actually pretty solid.
Yeah, for the games that he played, he was solid, but I mean, I wouldn't put him up against Aaron Jones. I would definitely say Jones is unquestionably better.
The Browns signed Jameis Winston. This is a definite backup role to me. I don't see Jameis getting any starting time intentionally, but we know how injury-prone Deshaun Watson has been, so I would not be surprised if he does get some starts. But yeah, they realize, all right, Joe Flacco's gone, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Jeff Driscoll, and P.J. Walker. None of those really deserve to be a backup quarterback. None of those come close to, what we've seen some of these backups do. Jake Browning, of course, Joe Flacco last year. So they knew they had to get someone in like Jameis Winston here. But because they're paying Deshaun so much money and Joe Flacco's gone, I mean, I really do believe, Deshaun Watson's going to be the undeniable starter next year.
I don't know, man. I think that Deshaun will probably start at first, but I actually see it more as a little bit of a competition, like the way that Justin Fields, Russell Wilson will be. I mean, I know that they're paying Deshaun a ton of money, but I'm a little concerned about Deshaun. I mean, he didn't play well this season. Joe Flacco outperformed Deshaun Watson easily this season.
But you gotta look. He did go 5-1 in his starts, though.
I mean, that's fair. But his stat totals kind of blow, and I feel like it could have been the defense that was also.
I mean, it certainly
operating
was.
Well.
It certainly was, but at the end of the day, they are paying him too much to sit on the bench, and Jameis Winston is so turnover prone. I really don't see a world where they are able to compete. Maybe they bring in somebody like Ryan Tannehill. I feel like Ryan Tannehill could have competed better. If they brought in Justin Fields, oh yeah, for sure. But Jameis Winston is just so piss poor, in my opinion. He's such a turnover. He is piss poor.
Dude, we actually have some fan mail this week from our boy Jimbo who believes that.
Well, Jimbo is biased because.
Well, I know that he's a little bit biased because he's from Florida, and so he likes Jameis a lot because he was a Tampa supporter.
Exactly.
But he did say in the fan mail that Jameis Winston to the Browns is a fantastic move, and that he will earn the starting role over Deshaun this season.
The only way I see him earning it is if Deshaun's injured. That's
Okay.
it. That's really all I see.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. I do think Deshaun is still better, at least a little bit, but I do see it as more of a competition this season. I wouldn't just be handing the job to Deshaun. I think he's really got to play well and earn it.
It's one of those things where they bring in somebody to just make the quarterback feel a little bit of pressure and maybe improve
Yeah.
Who were we talking about this
That
with
could
the other
happen,
day? We
yeah.
were talking about this where some quarterback was brought in and to kind of put the pressure on the starter to maybe urge them along in their development. Man, I can't remember who we were talking about, but yeah, this is just like that in my opinion. I mean, there certainly could be some sort of competition and might spur Deshaun Watson because he did feel like once he got paid, he got a little bit soft, he got a little bit unmotivated. So might be something like that. The Bills signed Curtis Samuel, the receiver from the Commanders, used to be on the Panthers, I think it was. I like this move. He's always been pretty underrated. As long as he could stay healthy, I think he's a suitable replacement for Gabe Davis.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of it. I think it's a great swap, especially because Gabe Davis and Josh Allen didn't seem to have the chemistry that they had in prior years. And so getting Gabe out of there and adding Curtis Samuel, I'd say they're very equivalent players. I mean, Curtis and Gabe, I thought that their talent level is roughly equal. And so this could just be a good way to improve their offense. If, Josh and Gabe had sort of a falling out, he can maybe form a new relationship with Curtis.
Yeah, I mean, I think Curtis is a really good player. He's always had, that backup role, kind of like wide receiver too. And
behind Terry.
Yeah, he'll be back there as well, with Khalil Shakir coming on. But I think he'll be useful. The Titans signed another wide receiver, Calvin Ridley. I know the contract for this is absolutely ridiculous, so I don't really like this move for them. Sure, he could be productive, but I just think they overpaid him.
Yeah, it's a little bit concerning just because they're getting into these older wide receivers now. I mean, they've still got D-Hop, who is getting...
Calvin is pretty young, all things considered. I mean, he's probably like 28 right now, I think. 29.
I mean, he's getting up there in age, I mean, I guess he's not in his 30s yet, but D-Hop is probably 32, and I mean, to not have a
young buck?
Yeah, I mean, they've got Treylon Burks, but
Treylon's a bozo.
Yeah, exactly. He's not doing a whole lot these days. So that concerns me a little bit, but it's probably nice to have them at least for teaching purposes if they're able to draft a really solid receiver in this.
Yeah, I think drafting somebody might be the move for them.
Yeah.
If they don't go with Joe Alt.
Right.
Justin Fields traded to the Steelers for a 6th-round pick, potential 4th if he plays 51% of the snaps.
Probably the biggest news of the week.
This was crazy. For sure. I remember this came out like Saturday afternoon. This is crazy to me, but it makes perfect sense, man. The Steelers really set up a nice future for them. I think Justin could end up being a lot like Russell Wilson the way he plays. They can move around, they can throw. I think Russell Wilson will start the majority of this upcoming year, as long, again, if he doesn't get injured. And then eventually he'll move on, probably retire, and then Justin Fields will take over the starting role. They really set themselves up super nicely. Even if they do end up having to give up a 4th-round pick, that's nothing. People thought that the Falcons would trade a 2nd or a 3rd, so the fact that it might be a 4th or a 6th is so incredible. And they're not paying Russell Wilson anything. They're paying him like $1.5 million while the Broncos pay most of his salary right now. And so they're getting these pretty solid quarterbacks that could be starters in many teams for the cheap. And I think it's a great move by the Steelers. And I'm just honestly surprised the Bears weren't able to get a little bit more out of Justin Fields. But it probably was because Kirk Cousins went to the Falcons. It seemed like that was kind of the reason why.
Yeah, those were kind of my exact thoughts. When I first saw this trade and I saw a 6th conditional 4th-round pick, I was like, are you kidding? That seems like the Steelers absolutely fleeced the Bears.
They did.
I mean, that was wild to me. I definitely think that they underpaid and just got away with.
But again, the thing is, he is going to have to get paid here soon. He's on the last year of his rookie deal, so that always is a factor, because money is money in the cap room and all that. So I think that was also factored into this, whereas Mac Jones, or not Mac Jones, but some of these other quarterbacks like Desmond Ridder or Kenny Pickett are going for similar compensation, but they don't have to be paid right away.
Yeah, it's weird to me, though, that Justin is not going to be a starter, at least not handed to him. It just feels odd that he started for the Bears for 3 years. And
it's probably for the best, though.
Yeah.
I think he needs to learn a little bit behind Russell Wilson, and I think Russell Wilson will take advantage of this opportunity, play himself back in the Hall of Fame, and all will be good.
Yeah, that works out.
Aaron Donald retired. I think also Lane Vander Esch retired as well.
Oh,
He's only like 29 years old.
Yeah, well,
He was
those
just
guys
like,
have made plenty of money, and they've been
the body can't take it anymore. He
yeah,
said,
they've
so.
been button heads for way too long.
Exactly.
They need to rest, conserve their energy.
So
a
good
little
for
bit.
them, right?
Yeah.
And Aaron Donald's absolute Hall of Famer. He got his ring, so happy for him.
Mm-hmm.
Kenny Pickett traded to the Eagles. Sounds like Kenny Pickett has entered lifelong backup duty.
Yep.
I don't think he'll really ever get a starter role.
Unless Hurts is injured.
Which is very possible that Hurts does get injured.
Too much tush-push action?
Yeah,
They don't have Kelsey to execute a successful tush-push anymore, though. So maybe he's liable to get more injured in the tush-push.
They definitely have to be careful about that. I did see like a meme where it was like Saquon Barkley rips off like a 52-yard run and is tackled at the 1-yard line. And then Jalen Hurts is just over there like just waiting to get just pushed over the line after Saquon did all the work. But yeah, I mean, interesting move here. I think Marcus Mariota was their backup, and obviously Marcus Mariota went to the Commanders, so they needed somebody. And Ian Book, who was like their third string for a period of time there, just ain't gonna do it.
Yep.
Sorry, Ian. Arizona, Atlanta, swap Rondale Moore and Desmond Ridder. I really do think Atlanta got a pretty good deal here. I'd take Rondale Moore and give up a crappy quarterback any day of the week. Rondale's a pretty solid receiver. He just hasn't gotten the playing time or really the attention over the last year and a half here. But, yeah, I mean, get rid of Desmond Ridder.
Yeah, I mean, Rondale is going to be a starter for the Falcons, and Desmond Ridder is going to be a backup for the Cardinals. So I don't really understand a whole lot of the logic behind this for Arizona. I don't know why they really want Desmond, but
I mean, they needed somebody. Clay and Tune was not going to be a good backup for them. And Josh Dobbs already gone. I think Colt McCoy's gone. Arizona, I mean, Rondale Moore will be like wide receiver 3 or 4 in Atlanta. Yeah. But it will still be a good move for them. I think, what else was I going to say about this? Oh, yeah. Atlanta still is Taylor Heineke. So they don't need 2 solid backup quarterbacks. Right. And so I think this was a good move. They kept the better of the 2.
Yeah.
Joe Mixon traded to the Texans. I like this move for them for sure. I think Joe Mixon is a solid running back. I think he's better than Devin Singletary was. So I think this is good for them.
Or Dameon Pierce.
Yeah.
Because neither of those
Dameon
guys
Pierce
had a very...
is weird. I would not be surprised, though, if he had some sort of resurgence at some point in his career because he is a young guy with not much usage. Yeah. I just hope the Bengals can get somebody in to replace Joe Mixon because I'm a little bit worried about the Bengals right now, losing maybe T. Higgins soon as well. We'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, a little bit concerning. It's weird because I feel like I've only known Joe Mixon to be on the Bengals. It just feels like he's been there for so long. And even at the start of last season, he was like the workhorse back, and it wasn't even close. He was getting more, like he had a higher snap percent share than any other like running back on any team.
Right.
And then just kind of halfway through the season, they started giving it to someone else. Was it Chase Young, or what's the guy's, their backup?
The Bengals backup?
Yeah, I thought it was like something with Chase. I know, not Jamar Chase, obviously, but I thought it was like Chase Young. He was like a speedster.
I know what you're referring to. They had Samaje Perine. He went to the Broncos. So, yeah, I'm not sure who the Bengals other guy. I think it might have been Chase Brown.
Oh, yes, that's who it was. Yes.
I think that was it. So maybe they believe in that guy. It's interesting, though, because I thought the Titans would believe more in Tajay Spears, but they paid Tony Pollard all this money to come in. I thought that was a little weird. So we'll see how that plays out. Sam Howell traded to Seattle. I think this is just down to the fact that they lost their backup, Drew Lock, to the Giants, so now they needed a solid backup. It's also interesting, Sam Howell had like his last great game against the Seahawks. They ended up losing, but he played great in that game. So that might have actually had something to do with why they like them. They're like, oh my God, you scared us. We want you. I do think he'll end up getting some starting time. If Geno gets hurt, Geno plays bad. But I also could see them drafting a quarterback.
I was going to say, I think that they're going to draft someone too. Yeah. They're going to have 3 like mediocre QBs to have on their team.
Hopefully the one that they draft ends up improving and becoming their franchise QB. But that is all we have in terms of the news. And now it is bracket time, baby.
Oh, yeah. You ready to get into this?
I'm ready for you to show us the way.
Show us the way?
Take my hand and lead me to the promised land,
dude,
please.
I'm excited for it. All right, we're going to start in the East here. So I think we've got a pretty obvious first pick here. It is UConn versus Stetson. UConn is the easy favorite here, easy pick. we definitely are rolling UConn. Next up, we have FAU and Northwestern, and I'm going to take not Northwestern. I'm going to take FAU again, and then I've got San Diego State versus UAB. I'm going to take San Diego State, 5 seed here. Now we're getting into my first upset pick. We've got Auburn versus Yale, and I'm going to take Yale to upset Auburn here.
God, I hate
13
this pick.
seed. Yeah, I had a feeling you were not going to like this one because
Yale barely beat 13 and 18 Brown.
I know, but this could just be a sneaky one, dude.
Could be sneaky?
Yeah. I saw that you have Auburn going pretty far here, but
yeah, I've made like 4 brackets already. Actually, already put one in the little podcast doc that we have, removed it, and then put a new one in there.
Wow.
Just because I've changed my mind. I've had so many mixed emotions on all this. But what I have not changed my mind on is that Auburn will boat race Yale.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right. Well, I guess we'll see what happens. Next up, I've got BYU to beat Duquesne. And then another interesting upset here. Morehead State to beat Illinois.
I cannot believe this.
Bro, here's the thing. You've got to pick Morehead State. Everyone loves Morehead. Right? I mean, why are you going to take...
Dude, I honestly felt like you picked them because of the name. Like,
you have to, bro. You have to.
I mean, I like Morehead as well. But unfortunately, you can't always get what you want. And we live in Illinois, the middle of absolute nowhere, permacloud, Midwest, tundra, Siberian winters. So I ain't getting no head.
I love that. All right. Next up here, I've got Drake beating Washington State. Now, another upset. You like this one?
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Drake's actually favored in this game as well.
Oh, really? Wow. Yeah, we kind of just had to pick them after we sniped Drake to win their conference in the conference tournament pool we were in. So I like taking Drake as an upset here. And then to close it out, at least the first round, I've got Iowa State, 2 seed, taking the win over South Dakota State, the 15 seed. Do you want me to keep going and finish off my East, or do you want to
finish off your whole thing?
The whole thing.
Do the whole thing.
Okay. All right.
Give it to me in full, baby.
So do you want me to go through all of the round ones?
Yeah, do all the round ones.
Okay.
You know, I might. Yeah, you could do it that way. I probably will do them by like 1-16 matchups. I will do all the 1-16s just because it's interesting to talk about those and compare them at the same time. But
I got you.
You do it that way.
All right. I will go down to the West now. All right. So for the West, we've got North Carolina against How-Wag.
Yeah, so Howard and Wagner will play, and then whoever wins that game will face North Carolina. But I would definitely take North Carolina.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, I'm taking North Carolina here. Even though they didn't win their conference tourney, they're still easy favorites as the number 1 seed. Next up, we got Mississippi State against Michigan State here. I'm going to take an upset. I guess it's hardly an upset because it's just the 9 seed versus the 8 seed, but I'm going to go Michigan State here. Then we've got St. Mary's against Grand Canyon. This one should be kind of a surprising upset because St. Mary's will definitely be favored, but I'm going to take Grand Canyon. Although I do think this is going to be a very, very good game. Do you concur with that? This should be a good game? Or no?
Yeah, I mean, see, my thing with Grand Canyon is I would love to pick them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're from Arizona. I love Arizona out there. Would love to see them go on a little Cinderella run, but they play in such a piddly conference that there's another team that's like that had a great season. McNeese is a good example. They've had a great season. They have a good record. They won their conference tournaments, but they just have not played really anyone of too much stature. And if they did, it was long ago in their non-conference segment of the year.
I got you.
St. Mary's is a really solid team, and so I would not be picking this upset personally, but I could see it more than this next one that you have.
Yeah, I'm actually going to take Charleston here over Alabama, and I know you might think this is a crazy pick, but dude, Alabama, not a fan of their defense.
Their defense is poo.
It is so bad, and that defense wins championships, bro.
Yeah, well, that's why I like St. Mary's. They have a really good defense. But, yeah, this will definitely be a higher scoring game. I'll give you that. And I would love to see Charleston win. I have gone there many times. Beautiful city. Great, great school as well. And so, I mean, I hate Alabama as well. So, I can't see it, though. I just think they'll out-talent them. But it would be interesting to see a 12-13 matchup here next.
I know. That would be Absolutely wild. All right, next up, I'm going to take Clemson here over New Mexico. Then I've got a crazy upset again. Colgate, 14 seed, taking down Baylor in the 3 spot.
You're a madman.
Am I?
You're a madman.
Am I? I've got some wacky upsets here, dude.
Let me pull out some stats here for you real quick.
You obviously don't like this pick one bit.
Yeah, I don't like your last 4 in a row.
Okay.
But stats on the round of 64 here. So, in 16v1 matchups, only 2 16 seeds have ever pulled it off. Of course, that did happen last year.
Yeah, Purdue lost.
Purdue and Farley Dickinson. So right here, you have a 14 being a 3. That's only happened 22 times. They're 22 and 130, which is a 14.5 win percentage.
It's about to be 23 and 130.
31.
Yeah.
Then for 13 and 4s, they're at 21%, 32 and 120. You also have the 12 and 5 upset. That's up all the way to 34 and 9/10% chance of happening. 53 and 99. But I just want to go to show that it is extremely rare for these to happen. It only does happen for 12 and 5. It's like a third of the time. So you really only should have one on the bracket ski here. And yeah, there's one that I like a little bit better. And I think you have 2 or 3.
I did take a lot of upsets.
You have 2 12s over 5s.
Yeah, I was trying to target a good amount of upsets. I know that's probably not the best way to fill out a bracket because you're supposed to kind of do it the way that the odds tell you.
Yeah, well, the thing is you want to have the higher seeded, eventually, you will have more 1 seeds. Let's say 3 1 seeds make the Final Four or something, or maybe 2, something like that. That's pretty likely to happen. They're 1 season for a reason. And because you would have guessed correctly half of the Final Four teams, you're awarded more points for that in terms of the bracket competition. Whereas even if Grand Canyon does beat St. Mary's, that's a minimal upset, especially if Grand Canyon goes on to lose and you have them, losing in that next round of 32 or whatever it may be. So you just got to really think about how you fill this out. But obviously this is just for laughs and gigs. So I like the fun and excitement of this.
I'm just trying to be like a strategic courtside conjurer here, just I like that. Sniping these upsets.
Well, some of these will come true and you'll look like a genius. So
well, that would be nice. Yeah. All right, I got to kind of pick up the pace here and churn through these. But I've got Nevada over Dayton, 10 seed, upsetting the 7 seed. And then I've got an easy pick here, Arizona beating Long Beach State. Heading on over to the South, I am going to take Houston over Longwood. Obvious pick there. I'm taking all of the 1 seeds, just to make that clear.
Yeah, everyone should do that this year.
I'm going to roll with Texas A&M over Nebraska, kind of because I wanted to see a Houston-Texas A&M matchup. Then I'm going to roll with Wisconsin over James Madison, although I do have a feeling you probably picked James Madison here. I think this will be a good.
I did, yeah.
I think that'll be a good game. Then I'm going to roll with Duke over Vermont. And then moving on to Texas Tech at NC State, I'm going to take the 11 seed NC State to upset Texas Tech here. Then we've got Kentucky at Oakland. I'm going to roll with Kentucky here. And then we've got Florida at Boise or Colorado. And I'm going to take Florida. And then finally, we've got Marquette at Western Kentucky. I'm going to take Marquette here. And then bringing it on down to the Midwest, the final sort of quarter of this bracket, taking Purdue over, is that Montana State or Grambling?
Yeah.
I believe. Okay, yeah. Then I've got TCU over Utah State. Got another upset here, McNeese over Gonzaga, 12 seed taking down the 5 seed. So yeah, that would be my second 12 over 5 pick. Then I've got Kansas over Samford. Now, I've got a feeling you probably picked Samford. I have not looked at your bracket yet, but did you pick Samford here?
I did not, but I would be tempted to because Kansas does have some injuries right now with some of their best players. And even though they may play, they may not be 100%. So I am not a big fan of this game here. But even if I do have Kansas winning, but I don't have them winning in the next round.
Okay, gotcha. I actually have them making it into the Final Four here.
I don't see that at all.
Okay.
They've been so bad.
They're going to be electric this year.
Yeah, maybe they might heat up.
Yeah, they'll surpass the injuries.
I hope so.
All right. Next, I've got South Carolina here to beat Oregon. 6 seed taking down the 11 seed. Now another wacky upset.
Well, we like Akron.
I know. We have to pick Akron here over the Creighton team because even though it's the 14 seed over the 3 seed, Akron won us our conference tournament pool.
They did.
I know that you said that, they're the Kangaroos.
Akron is kind of my lucky team.
Yeah, exactly. I'm hoping, did you pick them or no?
I can't do it.
Dude, how can you not?
I can't do it. Creighton, I think Crayon's really good. I have them going to the Elite 8 in one of my brackets, maybe even multiple of them. I really do like Creighton.
I don't know how you can bet against your favorite animal.
Because I want to win. And I'm trying to do this logically. If I went emotionally, I mean Charleston, Grand Canyon, Vermont, McNeese, Sanford, they'd all be winning.
Okay. All right, whatever you say. Just know that when you texted me and said I'm going to put an emotional hedge bet on Kent State when I said not to because Akron's going to win, and then you listened and Akron won.
Well, sometimes you have to do those emotional head bets so that you're happy either way on the outside, on the outcome.
Yeah, but if you didn't do the emotional hedge, then you still were happy because Akron won.
So. Well, I'm glad they did. Trust me, I'm very happy they did.
I know you are. All right. Last 2 games here in round 1. I've got Texas taking down UVA/CSU, and then Tennessee beating St. Peter's. I am not betting on St. Peter's to make their little run like they did last year.
The propitious Peacocks.
The Peacocks are not going to be as propitious as they were last year.
Fair enough.
All right. Going back up to the top here in the East, I'm going to take UConn to beat FAU. Not an upset here. I've got San Diego State beating Yale here. So the Yale run comes to an end after the first round. Then Morehead State, bro.
They surge.
Dude, you got to keep riding them. You have to. and then I've got Iowa State beating Drake to close that one out.
Okay.
Heading down to the West, I've got UNC beating Michigan State. For the second game, Grand Canyon beating Charleston. Then I've got Colgate beating Clemson.
Jesus.
14 seed over the 6 seed. The Colgate run continues.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay. And then Arizona beating Nevada. Easy pick, Arizona.
Desert matchup.
Team. Yeah, desert matchup. Then back up to the South here. I'm going to take Houston over Texas A&M. Then I'm going to go with, should be a little bit of an upset here, Wisconsin over Duke, 5 seed being the 4 seed.
That would be.
Yeah, because I know that Duke's normally historically been very solid, but I think Wisconsin got a good chance here. Then I've got NC State, the 11 seed, beating the 3 seed in Kentucky.
That's wild.
Yeah, I know. I've got a lot of upset picks in here.
That's exciting, though. That's what the people want.
Yeah,
at the end of the day, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah, that's what people want to see. And then finally, I've got Marquette beating Florida. Down to the West. I already did that one. Down to the Midwest, rather. I've got Purdue beating TCU. Then I've got Kansas over McNeese. Then I have South Carolina over Akron. And then Tennessee over Texas. I think this is the first time that I had to pick against my future home being Texas.
Right, but at least you're still picking Houston.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. All right, we're up to the Sweet 16 now. I am going to take UConn to beat San Diego State. And Iowa State, you have to say goodbye to Morehead State. After 2 rounds, you can't even go for Morehead, dude.
I was going to say, you can't.
That's too much head.
You're getting greedy at that point.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to take Iowa State here to make it to the Sweet 16. Going down to the West, I'm taking UNC over Grand Canyon. And then Arizona over Colgate. So the Colgate run comes to an end as well.
Fair enough, as it should.
All right. Up to the South. Taking Houston over Wisconsin, but I think this one's going to be a really good game. Very tight matchup. I think Houston might only win by like a couple points.
Okay.
Then I've got Marquette over NC State. Down to the Midwest, I'm taking Kansas to upset Purdue. I know you don't like that pick because you've been talking about the Kansas injuries, but I've got a sneaky feeling about Kansas here. Purdue lost to Wisconsin earlier. They're definitely liable to lose these lower seeds, man.
They definitely could. I don't see them going too far.
Yeah. All right, and then I've got Tennessee over South Carolina. Okay. Now we've got our Elite Eight. So I am taking Iowa State here over UConn. Upset pick. I know a lot of people have UConn as a favorite to win. I think Iowa State beats them here in the Elite Eight. Then I'm taking North Carolina, UNC over Arizona. Then Houston over Marquette. And finally, Kansas over Tennessee. Got Kansas making it all the way to the Final Four. I love the Kansas pick this year, dude.
The Jayhawks?
Oh, yeah. All right, Final Four. Iowa State at UNC. I am taking Iowa State to upset UNC and make it into the finals. And then I am taking Houston to get the win over Kansas, and the championship to be Iowa State against Houston. I'm rolling with Houston. It's the future town of my residence, at least.
Future town of Jake.
Yeah, exactly. They were so good to me all season long, at least in football, And so I need to ride them for the NCAA
It's not a bad pick
men's
at all.
basketball tournament too. And then I'm also going to put in 161 as the score pick, or the tiebreaker score thing.
Yeah, I think it would be a little lower scoring. Houston's games are always lower scoring with that great defense of theirs. But I like it. I'm probably going to end up in a similar spot. Don't want to spoil it, but we will see here. It's time for me to rip through
I'm excited. Let's hear it. I know you're not going to have as many upsets as I will, but
I try to do this very realistically with the common percentages traditionally of what happens, which means I'm going to take every one seed, including UConn, Houston, Purdue, and North Carolina. Just does not happen all that much. I don't see it happening this year. None of the 16 seeds seem like a threat to me. This FAU Northwestern game seems pretty close, but I'm going to take Northwestern. FAU couldn't even beat Temple, who was seated a lot lower than them in the conference tournament, so I like Northwestern there. UAB's kind of hot right now. They won that same league. They beat Temple in their conference, but I'm going to take San Diego State. They're just a lot more of a veteran in this space, and they've been pretty solid all year round. Definitely going to take Auburn against Yale. Definitely taking BYU over Duquesne, who kind of made a Cinderella run to get into the tournament, steal one of the bids. Illinois is one of my favorite teams this year, not just because I'm in Illinois. Honestly, I'm not really a fan of the university itself, but I do like them a lot. This year, I also like Drake to beat Washington State. I believe Washington State's a point underdog, so it's not even that big of a surprise here to take Drake. Definitely taking Iowa State over South Dakota State here as well. South Dakota State barely played anyone all year. Going over to the South region here, we already have Houston. I will be taking Texas A&M over Nebraska. I think they might also... Nebraska is favored in that game by 2, I think it is, maybe. But A&M is just hotter the way that they play in the SEC tournament. Wisconsin, you could say, has gotten pretty hot lately, but I am going to take James Madison. They already proved that they can beat good teams. They beat Michigan State earlier in the year, and they just rode through their conference, and just super impressive to see them come up from D2 or from the FCS level, in football, and make a bowl, have a great record in football, and then do a very similar kind of run here in the basketball realm. As much as I'd love to see Vermont beat Duke, they got a tough draw here. If they got another 4 seed that's not Auburn, I might have picked them, but I'm going to take the Blue Blood Duke. NC State, another team that's very hot. Very happy that they beat North Carolina, but I like Texas Tech here. Definitely like Kentucky over Oakland. Now, Florida here, I don't really like Boise State or Colorado. Actually, no, I mean to say, I don't really like Florida, but I don't really like those other 2 teams all that much either. So I'm going to go with Florida here. Begrudgingly, however you say that. Begrudgingly, there it is. Definitely taking Marquette over Western Kentucky. Going over back to the West here, I like Michigan State over Mississippi State. I think under Tom Izzo, the coach of Michigan State, they actually have a winning percentage when they are seated lower than their opponents. I like St. Mary's over Grand Canyon. Would love to see Grand Canyon go forward, but just don't see it happening here. They got a bad draw with the 5 seed. Alabama will be able to beat Charleston. New Mexico, they are favored over Clemson, and so I definitely like them over Clemson. Clemson's been very disappointing, just kind of like a paper tiger in my opinion. But I do like Baylor over Colgate, definitely like Nevada over Dayton. They're also favored over Dayton despite it being seated lower. And Arizona over Long Beach State. Going over to the Midwest here, we already have Purdue. I like TCU over Utah State. They play in both very difficult conferences, but I think TCU is just more equipped to take on Utah State, who's been a little inconsistent this year. I also think McNeese got a bad draw in terms of their 5 seed. If they got another one of these seeds over here like St. Mary's, I'd honestly be more inclined to pick them, but I'm going to have to go with Gonzaga here. And also begrudgingly going to take Kansas, even though they're injured. I just don't think Sanford is going to be able to do much damage against Kansas, who is obviously one of the historic greats. I like Oregon over South Carolina, though, because of how hot they've come in. They had to win their conference tournament. They did. They looked dominant doing it. They beat Arizona in the process. And South Carolina has lost to Auburn twice by a combined 70 points. So they just don't play well up against some of these better teams. I'm also going to take Creighton here, Akron, another team that just has not played anyone really outside their conference. So I really like Creighton in this spot. Now, here's the one where the play-in team I would like to know, because I think Colorado State would have a much better shot at being Texas than Virginia. But I just don't want to go through that whole extrapolation process thinking, oh, well, all right, I'm going to take Colorado State to beat Virginia, then I'm going to take Colorado State to beat Texas. I'm just going to say no, I'm just going to take Texas and definitely going to take Tennessee. Let's go back up to the top here. I'm going to take UConn over Northwestern. I'm going to take Auburn over San Diego State, taking Illinois for sure over BYU. And Drake's run here kind of ends at Iowa State. Going over to the other side here, the South, most certainly taking Houston. Duke is going to progress. Even though I don't love them this year, they got a pretty easy path to the 16 here. We have Kentucky, Texas Tech. This is a tough pick for me. I think this could go either way, but I'm going to roll with Kentucky. I am going to also roll with Marquette. I'm not very high on Florida right now. I could see them even losing earlier, like I said. I like North Carolina over Michigan State. This is where I like St. Mary's to beat Alabama. Alabama, you're done. I like, oh man, this is one of the hardest games for me to pick, but I'm going to go with New Mexico here. Baylor just did not impress me. I really thought they would perform a little bit better in their conference tournament in the Big 12 there, but they did not. So unfortunately, I'm going to ride with New Mexico. I like Arizona here to beat Nevada, so we have a little desert matchup to assess coming up. Going over to the Midwest, definitely taking Purdue. See, this is so wild to me. This section of the bracket here is just so light. I mean, for Gonzaga or Kansas to have such an easy path to the Sweet 16 is wild to me. But because of Kansas's injuries, I'm going to go with Gonzaga. And then moving down here, I like Creighton over Oregon. I like Tennessee over Texas. Those two are pretty easy to me. Let's go back on up to the Sweet 16 round here. I am going to roll with Auburn. I really liked UConn initially, but thinking about it more, it's so hard to take them to go far
pick,
again.
Man. It's a big pick.
Auburn has impressed lately. I mean, winning the SEC. I think with UConn, they will just hit a little bit of a stop here. I mean, they have not played great competition. The Big East has not been as good as it has been in the past.
Yeah.
And to go back to back or even to win the whole thing and then make the Elite Eight the next year, I mean, that's just tough to do. So I'm going to take Auburn here. I'm going to take Illinois against Iowa State. Definitely taking Houston over Duke. Don't think that game is really much of a contest. And I do like Marquette over Kentucky here. So we have a couple of the higher seeds and a couple of the lower seeds coming out of those regions. I like North Carolina to beat St. Mary's. Just think St. Mary's run ends there. I like Arizona to beat New Mexico in a little bit of a desert rivalry. Purdue over Gonzaga. Purdue got such an easy path to the Elite Eight here. And I like Creighton over Tennessee. Tennessee's disappointed me as of late. Then we have Auburn over Illinois. It's going to be Auburn. I'm going to take Auburn here. I'm going to take Houston. Then we have North Carolina, Arizona. I like Arizona to beat North Carolina. North Carolina is another one that just is not really shown to have that X factor this year, but they've also had a relatively easier path to the Elite Eight. And then I am going to take Purdue to go on a deep run here. I think finally defy those expectations and, the massive disappointment that they incurred upon themselves last year, losing in the first round. And then I'm going to take Auburn over Arizona, and I'm going to take Houston over Purdue, setting up a national championship of Auburn and Houston. I'm going to take Houston. Because of Houston's defense, I'm going to make this a lower scoring game at 147 total points scored. And there you guys have it. That is the perfect bracket, or at least one of them, because yours will be perfect as well in some alternative reality. We'll see what happens.
Exactly.
But
dude,
yeah.
I'm so excited that you picked Houston too. It's like you absolutely revolutionized yourself from
I'm a changed man.
You would pick against Houston every week in the football season.
I wanted to be different, so the first one I did was UConn, but then I just kept thinking about it. I can't have UConn winning back-to-back like that.
Right.
So it just feels like it's going to be Houston's year. And in terms of having like a good analytical bracket, I think this is a solid one. You might want to have another 1 seed in here if you were going to be very, focused on just getting that Final Four right. Having the 4 seed Auburn in there. But Auburn is one of the most beloved teams analytically. They just have such a high upside. So that is my bracket for you guys, and those are both of our brackets. I know that was a little long-winded, but we wanted to be thorough and give you guys a little bit of an explanation on everything there. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you filled out a bracket, who's your national title, who's your Final Four, would love to hear it in the comments down below. And so, to round out the pod here, let's go to our best bets recap of last week. I'll let you start with your just incredible NBA picks.
Dude, thank you. I've been on a nice little hot streak with them lately.
You've been on a tear.
I have. I picked Cleveland Cavaliers to cover the spread without knowing what the spread was. I don't even remember who they were facing. I think it was the Pelicans. It might have been like the Pelicans.
Right, yeah, you said you hate the Pelicans.
Yeah, I do hate the Pelicans. And so I actually, I was a little shocked by this because I thought that the Cavs would have been favored, but I guess they must have had like some injuries or something, and then they came in as underdogs. They absolutely blew out the Pelicans. I think they won by like 28 or something like that, and they were 6-point underdogs.
See, you knew what was up.
Yeah.
You should be making the odds.
Dude, exactly. And then, so I picked OKC money line, but I didn't realize that they were going to be such heavy favorites. I thought this was going to be like, maybe like a minus like 180 type of play. So I'd say like, oh, maybe, you throw 2 units on it instead of like the usual 1.
Right.
But it turns out they were like minus 480 or something like that. Oh my God. Well, because Luka ended up sitting out.
Oh, I barely made any money off this then.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
We're going to unit shame you for this one.
I know.
You did like a little fraction of a unit. You probably got like a
0.24 units back or something like that.
Ooh.
But it's all because Luka was out, and when I'm making these picks on a Monday when we're recording it, and
I mean, it's tough. That's why I just can't do any of these right now.
But it's still fun to get them right.
Yeah, we do have actually a lot of the lines for the first round of March Madness are out, so I will actually toss you guys some of my bets here.
Yeah. I tossed some of those in there because I am not skilled enough to be able to come up with best bets for the college basketball games. But you should definitely come up with some. I really do like
this one here, so we'll get to that in a second.
But yeah, and then the Magic Conch. So the Magic Conch, we put on Cornell at Yale, and if you guys remember last week, the Conch was acting a little bit fickle. The Conch is actually pretty broken right now. I'm not even sure we're going to be able to deliver a Magic Conch bet this week because she's so flaccid these days.
Oh my God, she looks rough.
Yeah. But the initial pick from the Conch was Yale to cover the spread, which is what ended up happening. However, we added a bonus pick in there, which we said was the over. And this was like, dude, the Conch is good for 1 pick a week, not 2. We shouldn't have pushed the Conch.
I know.
Yeah, we didn't want to, we didn't need to add in the extra one. And so the second one did not hit, but the main one is what hit. And so we'll take that. And then your spread picks here, I was a little surprised. You had said Cornell minus 2.5 as your prediction, but Yale was favored by 3, which was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I don't know really why. I'm very surprised about that, just judging how Yale ended the season.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there was an injury or something. I don't believe this was played at Yale. I think this was a neutral site. So
Yeah.
very strange to me, but hey, I guess Vegas got it right because Yale did end up winning.
Yeah, but your over-under prediction was very sharp, though. You said 147.5. The actual line was 153.5, but it went under that. So your 147.5 was a really solid pick.
I should be making the spreads.
Yeah, the over-under totals for sure.
All right.
Best bets of the week this week?
Go ahead with your best bets. I'm still calculating mine.
Okay, I've got another blind spread here. Utah Jazz at Dallas Mavericks. I'm taking Dallas to cover the spread here. Utah Jazz are exactly like the New Orleans Pelicans for me, bro. I can't stand either one of these teams. They always suck whenever I decide to bet on them. So I'm going to take Dallas here to cover the spread. I'm expecting Luka to be back. I think this game is on Thursday evening.
Okay.
So I don't think I've even missed a blind spread prediction yet.
I don't think so. This is just wild.
I know, it's crazy. So we're going to roll with that one. And then second, New Orleans Pelicans at Miami Heat. I'm taking Miami money line here. The Pelicans actually have a better record than the Heat, but the Heat are at home here. So I'm thinking that the Heat will probably be favored by maybe like 2.5 or something like that. So I think the Heat will be like minus 150 to win this game. I like the Heat to come out strong and get a win over the Pelicans.
Sounds good to me. I might have to toss some coin on those since you've been so hot lately.
Yeah. Now. Go ahead.
Time?
Well, we can see if the Conch even wants to operate. Dude, the Conch is so broken. We've got duct tape on the Conch, and there's even like a quarter sticking underneath the pendulum here to try and hold up the Conch. But
what happened to her?
Dude, I think it's just because I stuff it in my backpack on the drive over here.
Well, she's been putting in some work lately, though. She's got to be exhausted.
Yeah, she has been really drawing upon her conjugal powers. And
the basketball, NCAA basketball. Exactly. She was not great before, but...
Yeah, not for football season, no. Well, so what game do you think we should put the Conch on this week? I
know exactly what game to put it on.
Okay.
It's going to be one of the more watched NCAA March Madness games here. Certainly not Moorhead in Illinois. Certainly not St. Peter's in Tennessee.
Well, you already know the Conch would tell you about the Moorhead and Illinois matchup.
So we're just going to stay away from that then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the better ones here to go for is going to be that Texas A&M Nebraska game. Since it is so tight, only a 1.5 point spread. So let's see
who's the favorite there?
The Conch, the favorite is Nebraska by 1.5 points.
All right, Conch, what's the play for the Texas A&M Nebraska game?
Yeah.
Conch is thinking.
I have my own thoughts on this.
Oh, she doesn't even want to give a total. It's just the under. She doesn't want to pick the underdog or the favorite.
That's fine.
Conch says the under for that game.
So the under is going to be 146.5. So that is what the Conch says.
Let's hope that her brokenness doesn't impact the pick this week, because she's more broken this week than last week.
Well, at least she still won 50-50 last week.
Yeah.
Anyways, here are my best bets of the week that I just brewed up for you guys on the spot. St. Peter's plus 21.5 against Tennessee. That is just too many points for a team.
I like that a lot.
Has been playing pretty well lately.
And then made a humongous run last year.
Yeah, exactly. They're experienced in this space. I like Texas A&M to beat Nebraska, so I'm going to take them plus 1.5. I like James Madison to beat Wisconsin, so I'm going to take them plus 5.5. I like Colorado State to beat Virginia by quite a bit, more than 2.5, so I'm going to take them and the points there. There are a couple other good numbers I like, but those are my favorites from just glancing at it. Something to consider for you guys. And there we have it. Filled out a couple brackies, and we'll see how it progresses. We'll revisit this, see how we're doing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Dude, best month of the year. Always.
Yeah, I love that bleeds into April a little bit, too.
I know. Very exciting stuff. And thank you guys for tuning in. We don't have any other fan mail this week. My dad decided not to write in, evidently.
That's all right.
Yeah, he'll do better next week. Yeah.
I don't think he did. I'll check here real quick, though.
He told me he's going to make a bracket, though, and he's going to send it in to us.
Oh, my God, he did.
Oh, he did?
He said, well, now that Fields was traded, I agree with you that the Bears are going to pick Caleb Williams. I think they are going to trade down with the second pick and they will try to get Jared Verse or Brian Thomas from LSU. That totally could happen. I like that. And his final 4 are UConn, Houston, Arizona, and Kansas.
No way. He's
so
taking
similar
Kansas
to
too.
You, he's got 2 1 seeds there, a 2 seed, and a 4 seed. So
wait, can you say that again? You said UConn, Kansas, Houston. What was that?
And Arizona.
Oh, okay.
So I like that. I mean, that's a good, solid lineup. I don't like Kansas, but the other 3 I like.
Yeah.
So
nice. Well, I'm glad that he did write in.
Yes. Glad we got that in for this pod. Thank you guys as always for watching, and we will see you soon.